Hey, and welcome to the Linking Souls podcast, the place where we talk about our relationship to animals and different perspectives. I'm your host, Rosina, artist, philosopher, and leader of an animal sanctuary. This is the very first episode, and I'm going to share with you some basic information about who I am, what I do, and why I decided to start this podcast. So let's begin. I personally grew up between a lot of polarities regarding our relationship with animals. I spent a lot of time on different farms, and my parents had animals that were partly pets and partly supposed to be used for food. It was a wild mixture, and in that wild mixture, I never really learned a clear distinction between pets, wildlife, and farm animals. I was connected to it all, and I saw that in the end all these kind of animals were so similar, and there was no clear boundary between them. That was a beautiful experience, and I'm really grateful for all the people who enabled me to get to know animals in so many different ways. But it also led to a lot of confusion and pain, because the general treatment of animals in this world is not beautiful. There is a lot of pain in the way we relate to animals in all these different ways. Basically, no matter if they are considered to be pets, wildlife, or farm animals. It doesn't matter in which category they are at, there is always pain. In some ways the pain is different, but in some ways the pain is also the same, because we generally just relate to them in a way that puts us as humans above them and allows us to use them and treat them in so many ways that cause so much suffering. And as a child, being connected to all these animals, I observed a lot of suffering, and that actually led to me trying to rescue animals from a very early age. I can't really tell you a single day when I started, but I have the first memories of me wanting to rescue animals, even against the will of adults, was when I was about 4, and there were different stories. Not all of them went well. For example, I remember once in the kindergarten there was a big machine making a hole in the ground in front of the kindergarten. I don't know what they were doing there, but I saw a little earthworm being there, and I was so scared for this little earthworm, so I got it away and took it with me in my hands, and I wanted to take it home and find a safe place in the forest and set it free. So I took it with me, and I went home, and when I got home, actually that day, my neighbors took me with them home. I drove with them, and I had to walk through our village back home. And when I came home, my dad asked me what I had in my hands, because I was rolling something in between my fingers all the time. And I looked down, and I realized that it was a little earthworm, and I had forgotten that it was in my hand, and just unconsciously I started to roll it between my fingers, and it was completely dried out and dead. And that was so horrible. I was so sorry for this little earthworm. That kind of story haunted me for years, because I felt so guilty and ashamed. So I have got many of these kind of stories where I've failed terribly, but I also have a lot of beautiful stories to tell, and very inspiring stories to tell, and I made so many valuable experiences that I can't really put into words, to be honest. But overall, I felt very lonely in my desire to help animals, because the adults in my life had very little space for this, and most of them just could not share my perspective and the depth of connection that I felt to the animals. And that just left me very alone with a lot of heavy emotions that I couldn't properly process, and a lot of big jobs that I felt responsible for that I wasn't actually capable of doing. When I was 18, beside a lot of smaller animals. I also had already rescued 3 cows. And at that time, I was on several TV shows that liked to show me riding on my oldest cow, Millie. I bought her when I was 15, on my 15th birthday. And at that time, I started riding her. And I was like, I'm not gonna say our training was perfect. It was actually an absolute mess, but it still was enough to get people to be amazed and simply just look. And my intention was, away from the fact that I always thought I would enjoy riding, was also to train her and the other cows as well, in order to show humans how capable cows are, and that their purpose in life isn't like, it doesn't need to be limited to landing on a plate. But eventually I realized that is actually a very narrow-minded approach, which makes it seem like animals do only have a purpose in life if they are serving humans in a way that does benefit them directly. And I really wanted to show the nature of cows and how much more they are. But especially during these times when I got a lot of attention for what I did, I realized that the people who are not ready to see the true nature of cows, if they look at me riding on Millie, they don't see an astonishing, talented, intelligent animal that's being ridden. They do see me as a human who has a special talent in training animals. They always made it just about me, and they couldn't see her in any way for who she was. And I actually couldn't as well, because in order to ride her, I had to suppress so much of her real nature, because the real breakthrough happened when I started to let her run loose on our hikes in the forest without a leash. And I realized what she was doing if I would not hold her captive on a leash. And she was running around and climbing and all that stuff that she couldn't do with me on her back, because I would fall off. So I really realized that was not at all a good tool to show her real nature. And I realized that the people who are ready to see the real nature of cows, they do not need that cow to be trained in any way. They can see that by just her standing there, or running through the forest, or whatever she wants to do in that moment. And that was a real breakthrough for me, where I realized what I actually want to do. And over the years, I've learned a lot, and I focused on healing my relationship with the animals around me in order to be able to meet them on eye level and create healthy relationships, which is a very difficult task and something I'm really looking forward to talk more about, because it's definitely not easy. And I'm still learning so much every single day, because there's so much toxicity in our relationship towards animals. It's just like, I don't know, I think this is a lifetime project, but it is one that I'm really passionate about. And today my absolute biggest passion is actually studying these, studying the wild nature of these domesticated animals. I just love it. I love to see them to be as free as possible, and I want to enable other humans to truly see them and show them that there is no clear distinction between wildlife, pets, and farm animals, except from the one that is in our heads. But that is something that we are in charge of. That's not a natural law or anything like that. I really believe that that is what we need for a future where we are able to actually live in symbiotic relationship with each other. The ability to really truly see each other and ourselves and be aware of who we are and how connected we all are. Reconnecting with that real nature. That is a core ingredient for a healthy way of living for all of us. And humanity is so insanely disconnected in so many ways. We're disconnected from nature, from the rest of the animal kingdom, but also from our own bodies, which is basically the animalistic aspect of us, I would say. Disconnected from our entire souls. We don't really know ourselves, and we are so disconnected from each other. We are living in cities where they're like so far away from our true nature, which doesn't mean that they are all bad, but it's just so very, very disconnected. And I believe that we all suffer because of that in so many different ways, and I did for sure. I had a very hard time in school, for example, and I left the educational system basically as soon as I could. After school, I went into the training to become an educator, and once I had finished that, I immediately left, even though it was not my dream to work in that job, but I just wanted to get out of school as soon as possible. And I started to work at the night watch in a children's home, because I thought that was the best combinable job with what I actually wanted to do, which was spending time with my animals. So that way I could be at home basically every day. But that also led to me working like constantly over the days with my animals, and then overnight in the children's home, and I did so many things on the side. Yeah, that was just too much. It really was. And I actually ran into something that I would call an emotional burnout, where I really realized that I could not go on like that. I dealt with really intense phases of depression and a lot of emotional trouble for a bunch of years, and I just was very disconnected from my true nature. And even though I really tried, I also was very disconnected from my animals, and I was over and over again forced to disconnect to them in a millions of ways. One of my favorite examples is the Emma story. I told that a few times on Instagram, but maybe you don't know it yet, so I'm going to tell it to you today. And that is Emma was a little calf that I adopted because I actually had no resources. But my dear friend Hannah, who was at that time, I think, something like 13 or something like that. Oh, yeah, that's about as old as she must have been. And she found Emma on a farm, and Emma was a very, very small calf, like super tiny, under 20 kilograms heavy when she was born, which is like below 50% of what a usual calf might weigh. And she was so tiny that she was really of no use for the farmer, and that the farmer that we got her from is a very nice guy, so he was not going to kill her or anything, but she just had no use. And it was clear that she would just go into the industry and she would probably not survive, and if she would survive, then she would end up slaughtered on a plate. And I don't know exactly why, but I remember that Hannah, she bought her from the farmer and convinced me to take her in, and I did that. And Emma was actually, and still is to this day, she's just wonderful, and she's the cutest, and she was an absolute sunshine, and so cute. You can't imagine how cute she was. But she was very sick, and right after she got here, she got so sick that we were scared for her life for over a week, struggling all day long. It was horrible. She had a lot of diarrhea and needed so much attention from the vet, and it was really hard to get her through. But eventually we made it, and then she could go out to the herd with the other cows. And my cow Millie, she adopted her actually, but still it took Emma a very long time to disconnect from me, and she was really attached to me. And always when I came for the feeding in the evening, because Millie adopted her, but Millie did not have enough milk to feed Emma, so I had to come there twice a day to feed her with milk. And when I came in the evening before I had to go to work, I always came pretty late because I didn't want to come too early, because then she would need a much earlier breakfast, and because I was at work I couldn't come that early, so I got there usually pretty shortly before I had to leave for work. And that was a problem because right after I fed her, Emma always wanted to stay with me, and she wanted it so badly that she actually went through the electricity fence in order to follow me and stay with me, and she really didn't want me to leave. And actually I didn't want to leave either, but I had to. And that one evening she went through the electricity fence 10 times, and I always brought her back and brought her back and brought her back, continuously getting angrier because I was just feeling so stressed and anxious, and I started to think about how horrible it's gonna be if she will always and for the rest of her life go through electricity fences, which would actually mean that I couldn't keep her because I could not have a grown-up adult cow that would constantly go through electricity fences. And I realized how important it is that she stays inside, and I actually had to go to work and I was already getting late, and it was super stressful, and this tension was building up. And then after the 10th time I basically just exploded. No, I did not physically harshly hurt her, but I did push her away. I screamed at her, and I really scared her to the degree that this call that really did everything it could to not leave my side actually left. And after that, I went to the car and I cried for 30 minutes. And it was way too late for work. And that was really not the most effective method. Actually, thinking back, I think if I would have just sat there for half an hour and waited for her to return to the herd by herself, I would have been probably just as late, or maybe even a little bit quicker. And this conflict would not have needed to escalate. But at that point I was just so helpless and stressed, and I drove to work and I knew that I had to quit, because I knew that these moments should never ever happen again. This is not what I want my life to be. I do not want to compromise in these moments that I feel the very most important to me, which are these moments of deep connection and healing. Because Emma had already lost one mom. And even though she had Millie as her main mother, I was in a motherly role, kind of, and I did not want to re-traumatize her over and over again, and I did not want to scare her. I did not want to follow the restrictions of a normal job in order to be on time if someone needs me so desperately, like a little baby cow that just does not want anything else than her mommy. And yeah, that was really important for me and really painful. But from that point on, I started just getting signs from life that there would be ways, because at that point I had no idea how to do anything. I had no idea how I could get out of this normal job thing. I thought that was the best way that could be for me, and then this job turned out to be not the best way, because it wasn't just that, it was in general just a job was definitely not made for me. Absolutely not. So yeah, that year 2018, for Christmas I got all my money together and I bought a computer, actually the computer I'm recording this podcast on right now. And I made a plan, not a real plan, but basically just a wild collection of ideas. And on my birthday, 2019, I quit my job. And since then, I'm building an individual career that doesn't follow a clear plan, that had a lot of trials and errors. But yeah, it's working in a way, and we're still here. And I'm doing my very best to heal and help. Heal myself as well. And help others heal. that is my job nowadays, and I'm actually proud to be able to say that. In my job today, I'm working with many different platforms and online, which is not something I would have ever imagined myself doing, because I used to be like really not into technical stuff. I was super late with signing up for social media at all, and yeah, that was just never really my thing. But it has a lot of really wonderful benefits, and I'm getting to know them. But it is truly not easy. There's a lot to learn, and there are a lot of rules in this online world as well that are difficult to keep up with. Like the algorithm and the form of consistency that is asked, and how often actually quantity is easier rewarded than quality, which is so hard for me, because I love to take deep dives, and I feel like I never really can do that, because I always I'm rushing to finish whatever I'm doing, because I always feel like I'm running late on posting the next thing. I'm always behind, and that's so stressful. And yeah, even though it might not look that way, because I'm not one of the people who are posting regularly, but I'm still stressed about that. And yeah, just finding the space to truly express myself is a challenge. And I actually thought about doing that on YouTube with videos, because I actually love that format, and I think that is the place where you can go deeper into topics than, for example, with Instagram, which is really fast paced, where people usually don't even read what you're writing or anything, and the videos should be super short and stuff. But actually, even on YouTube, there's not enough space, or I can't really use it, because in order to make catching videos and high quality videos that there's so much time and work and energy going into that. That's such a big challenge, and it's so difficult to then align what you want to say and the message you want to give with the video. If you're like me and you don't have an overabundance of video material, I do have a lot of stuff, and I have a lot I want to share with you in the near future. I am currently working on a video that really I'm really looking forward for that, but I just really need a lot of time, and it's a big project for me, each and every video. And they're just at the beginning I thought, okay, making videos is just the kind of thing you need to learn, and then you can do it, and then it's getting easier. But the truth is, they're getting harder and harder with each time, because even though I learn a lot and I get better, also the quality I want to produce is getting higher and higher, and it's harder and harder to keep up with my own expectations. And it's just so difficult. So especially in my current video, I just noticed there's so much I want to put into that video, and actually doing that will take me forever. I've now been working on this video for almost a year, and it's not even close to being published. So I can't do it. I won't get any money, because the thing is, even though my main support right now is Patreon, where the people, which is just wonderful, send us money without ever asking what I'm doing with that, and without demanding any clear exchange. And that is, wow, it's so wonderful. It's just the most wonderful thing in the world to me. But still, these people, they find us because they share stuff on social media. And if I don't do that, no more people are finding us. And even the people that are already there, of course they are giving really freely, but if I don't share anything, at some point they will leave as well. I'm aware of that. And in order to keep that rolling and going and growing, I need to create. And videos are just too much work for me to do that. So what I then did, I actually, since a very long time, thought maybe a podcast would be a great thing, because I'm a very talkative person, and yeah, it's much easier if you don't have to also create a video if you want to say something. But starting another platform and another tool just felt like a lot of work for me, that I wasn't sure if I could do it. So I tried to get on other people's podcasts, and I wrote a bunch of emails and asked for the ability, like, to be a guest somewhere, and I hoped to be invited, but that did not happen. I either never got a reply or I got a no, and I realized that I'm not convincing enough. Like, the thing is, in today's online world, attention is currency. And even though I do have a bunch of followers and there are people engaging with my stuff and you're there, like, it's so great if you're listening, but I'm not, I don't know, it seems to me like, especially when it comes to the bigger platforms and bigger podcasts, they don't easily take you on. You need to also bring something to the table, and it's not enough to have interesting thoughts. They want to benefit from having you on the podcast too, and they want to get your audience. And if your audience is not strong enough, that's an issue. And I think that's where I'm at. I just don't get there because I can't show enough. For most people, just showing them, look at that, I've got all these animals and I get them through every month, it's not enough. They want to see you succeeding before they let you participate in their success. And I mean, I get that, but it still is very sad in a way. But it gave me the butt kick that I needed to now start my own podcast. And yeah, you can help me by listening to this. And I'm really looking forward to share my heart and mind. And I'm so curious to see where your attention goes and what you're interested in. And you're very welcome to share that. I'm also planning to invite some guests. I've already got one safe. One very interesting guest is coming, probably in May, but yeah, we gotta wait a little longer. And until then, I'm just looking forward to talk to you and to connect with you. And I want you to know that deep questions are one of my favorite love languages, because I have a lot of trauma with not feeling heard and not feeling welcome to share my perspective, because I was different in so many ways in so many cases, and in so many cases it was so painful for people to accept my perspective because I am so hyper-focused on pain. So in order to really see my perspective, people need to be ready to feel, and to feel deeply, and also to feel uncomfortable things and pain. And I know that's not easy, but I also know that people like that are out there who are ready to feel the pain in order to heal the pain. And asking questions is a way of showing me that you're ready. So if you have anything on your heart and mind, it also doesn't need to be a question. If you just want to share whatever, your own experience, whatever, please do that. I would love to read your words. And I thank you so much for listening. Before I leave, in case that you want to support me and my mission and my animal family, I'm going to put all the links into the description of this podcast. I don't know yet where you can find that description, but I hope it's obvious. And I'm looking forward to talking to you soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.